let's bring on our guest. With over 114,000 subscribers on the Channel Makers channel, 105 videos released on the channel. Those videos have received over 5 million views. He has channelmakers.com where you can go find out more information about Project 24, where he has helped literally hundreds, if not thousands, of YouTube creators become successful on YouTube. I am very excited to welcome, and please help me welcome, Nate from Channel Makers to the live stream. Hey, Nate.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me all right?
I hear you well.
Good.
I asked that those in the comments, if you are having any issues hearing the audio, you let us know.
Yeah, let me know.
And we will try to make adjustments. So I'm excited to have you here, Nate. We have a community of YouTube creators who are also either woodworkers or makers of some type. And that's the qualifications to be in our Facebook group, Woodworking YouTubers Facebook group. And within that group, we're always talking about YouTube more than about woodworking. There's plenty of groups to talk about woodworking. We focus on more what we can do to help grow our channels. And your videos are always a source of ours to quote. We always point to it as a resource. And we really appreciate all you're doing for our community as well as all of YouTube. I think you're really making an impression on thousands of people. And it's obvious by your subscriber count, but I know a lot more people watch your content than actually are subscribed. So I appreciate all you do.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. If I were to say, I've done a variety of collabs, or live streams, podcasts. This RT, this is by far been the best organized one that I have seen.
Hey,
so everybody watching, if RT reaches out to you, say yes. The messages beforehand, just the organization, everything about the invitation. You're very complimentary. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And as we get into it, I will be trying to identify your questions, and at certain points, we will naturally stop with my questions and allow audience questions. But at that being said, one of the things I was hoping to do tonight, Nate, as I tried to convey, is take 30-minute segments of videos that are live on YouTube and do an analysis, do a roast. And I've given you a chance to review the ones I've selected. Are you ready to get started with that?
I am ready.
Fantastic.
I think I got in on the shirt memo here. I mean, look at this.
Hey.
It's like we planned this. It even matches your logo right here. Look at that.
You follow directions very well. I tell you what to wear. That's
awesome.
Let's share the screen, and I will play the first clip unless you tell me to stop it at any point.
Sure. I'm excited. Let's do this.
Having a slight technical difficulty. I believe we've got it now. And this is from Sandy at McKenzie Lumber Mill. Sandy is a huge fan of yours, and I selected this portion of one of her videos, and this is the introduction of the video, and this is more of a how-to video, so I'm hoping we can take it from there. I'm going to maximize the size and play the first 30 seconds unless you tell me to stop.
Oh, let's do it.
3 tips on how to dry your wood quickly. No, wait, let's make it 5. Whoa, no, 7. If 5 is good, 7's better. And an extra bonus tip, it's a hidden gem on how to accelerate the drying time of your wood. Let's get at it. Hi-ya! Tip number 1.
Oh, that was brilliant. Oh man, that was brilliant. Oh man. Okay. All right. So let's bring on the roast here. So Oh man, this is good. So first thing, it's funny because not a lot of people may know this about me. I don't know. I've said it a few times in my videos. I wasn't going to. I don't often bring it up. I used to more, but I spent some time doing a lot of theater and performing and that kind of stuff. And one of the most often recorded or repeated things by directors was how they wanted the energy to be high, and a lot of times, usually when people start out on YouTube or when they're building a YouTube channel, they'll feel like their energies, if it's a scale of 1 to 10, they'll feel like they're at like an 8 or a 9, and they'll be like, whoa. But then when they actually watch themselves on camera, it's actually more like a 2 or 3. That's often the case with that clip that we just watched. What directors would often say when we were going through scenes and stuff is they would say, give me more, give me more, give me more, give me more. And I will tell you, the directors would say, I will tell you when to scale back. I'll tell you when, but I would prefer if you went more, 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 more. And usually I've watched, thousands of YouTube videos. Usually I would give that advice. I would say more, more, more energy. With that, I do not have to give that advice. That clip was amazing. Very, very high energy. And in fact, I might put on the director's hat here and say, you could potentially pull it back just a little bit. And here would be my reasons why for that. When you come to a video and someone slaps you across the face with a whole bunch of personality and energy, it does one thing. It usually divides the audience. It's either people are like, whoa, what is going on? If this is the first video they've seen, they usually say, oh my goodness, what is going on? And they have to make a decision. They have to decide, oh, this is actually, I like this, I'm okay with this, or I am not okay with this, and I'm going to go to another video. That happens a lot. So with this clip, well, I mean, just that clip that you just showed me, there's potential. I like a lot of personality. If I did say anything, and this is a good thing, by the way, Mackenzie, I would say you could dial it back just a little bit. Not necessarily to, be less personality, but potentially, because this is not it's not a common problem, but because if they feel like they're slapped across the face with so much energy right at the beginning, you could potentially be losing viewers with the intro, especially if it's an information style channel, which RT, you were saying this is I looked at a few of the other videos on the channel. It does seem kind of information style, answering questions, right?
Yeah, this is a lumber mill station or channel.
Mhm.
So they focus on the lumber mill, the functions of the lumber mill. They give tips for, like this video, the tips to dry the wood. They also do some builds with the wood that they harvest from their homeland. And Sandy has definitely got a lot of energy. And if you got a chance to see her channel trailer, that would just put an exclamation mark on it. Lots of energy, and she's a student of YouTube, and I let her know that I had asked you to come on whenever I was waiting on your answer, and she was so excited whenever you agreed to come on. So she's a big fan of yours.
Yes. Yeah. So then, so I spent some time, and I'm glad you're verifying that, RT. So I spent some time before doing this, and a lot of people might not know that. I looked at the channels of these clips that we were going to roast, and if anything, I think the energy is awesome, but it just depends on the audience intent. And I'm going to say this for everybody watching this. Why are people watching your videos? Because if on this particular video, I think it was 7 ways to get your lumber to dry more quickly, which strikes me as an information first. So people are coming to a video like that. Traditionally, at least the way it's framed, we're open to adjusting, but people are coming to a video like that because they want to get some information. They actually want tips. Like they want, okay, what are the ways? And if the video starts off with that much in your face energy, it could be a turnoff for people. I'm not saying that I know the audience as well as Mackenzie knows the audience. But the point there is, it's the intro is when people decide what they think of your video. Like they decide whether they're going to stay or they're going to leave. And it's great. It's good sometimes to kind of ramp up the energy a bit, do a good energy intro until your audience is large enough so that you have a viable amount of people to expect that type of energy. And so that further down the road, as you're growing your channel, etc., you can have that. But your earlier phases, it might be good to kind of ramp up the energy throughout the video, have that fun and energetic energy. But perhaps if your video, especially if your video is targeting search, which a video like 7 ways or 7 steps to dry your lumber more quickly, I could see that being a searchable style of video. If that were the case, I might dial back at the beginning of the video. You can have that personality still, but that would be my take on it. You still here, Mackenzie? You doing okay there?
Yeah, she's having a great time. She said she was almost crying, but I know that was good kind. And she said great input. And
oh, there we are.
She is excited, I believe. So good job, good analysis. One of the things that whoops, wrong button. Okay, one of the things that she and I had gone back and forth about was your video that you had previously, and let me share a clip from that.
Mm-hmm.
Not a clip, but whenever you did the 9 mistakes, and you had this display, simple as it was on your desktop, and cut up pieces of paper, but you showed the scaling of the different sections of video. And she was expressing to me the other day that really hit home, and it really hit home with me too. A different way of looking at it, and I really liked the desktop display that you did in that video. It was very impressive, and brings it down to my level. So I appreciate that.
That's great. That's really good to hear. I think that's we're all YouTube creators here. That's something that it's good to get that kind of feedback, because one of my goals very early on, actually, when I started Channel Makers, was I realized there was a typical way of teaching YouTube, and I kind of wanted to always be evolving and doing it better, more interesting, all of those things. So it's really cool to hear that. Also, I had to say hi to everybody in the comments saying howdy, howdy, Nate. Howdy, howdy, everyone. Howdy, howdy. And a couple of people were asking about if I'm feeling better. I am. Thank you. Thank you for asking that. It was whatever it was. I had a cold a couple of days ago when I recorded that video that I published today. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, you sound better.
Thank you.
So I do have a serious question for you, though. If the audience is getting something out of this video, what should they do that like button?
Oh, they should boop the like button.
Perfect.
You played your own thing on me. You know that whenever I do a collab, I ask them to do that. You've done your homework. That's why I say, everybody, if RT reaches out to you to do a collab, say yes. It doesn't even matter what's about. Just say yes.
Yeah, I'm just going to.
It's been great.
I'm going to cut that clip out of the video right here and send that with all of my requests for future live streams.
Endorsed by Nate. There we go.
So the next portion or clip that we're going to watch is from the body of the video, or a demonstration. And this type of video is a tool review, and it's actually a versus type of video where he takes 2 tools and compares the 2. And Marius from Mastering Mayhem actually won the chance to do this on a drawing that we had a few weeks ago here on our live stream. So I picked that. He didn't get to pick which clip, though. I picked the video and the clip. And it's, whenever you're doing a tool review, it's a little bit different than doing a list or a how-to video. So let's play that.
Great.
Again, you can use a drill bit here. Any 1/4 inch hex bit will work no problem on this, y'all. It's much cheaper than getting an impact driver. You can use your impact wrench as an impact driver. Let me go ahead and demonstrate. There we go. Let's start off with the 10-inch hex head screw. This screw comes with its own adapter.
Cool.
All right.
The roasting commence, right?
That's right.
Okay. Okay, first of all, what I like the premise. I like the premise of doing a tool review, comparing two tools, and especially if they are popular tools. That's a really good formula for a video. And in fact, I've done videos similar to that on this channel and on other channels where we take a bunch of different tools and we basically put them head to head. Because a lot of times when people are choosing to purchase something, they don't just want a review. They don't just want, hey, I got this tool, I got this water bottle, and these are the features. They don't just want that. They want to actually see it in action. Because if they just wanted features, they could just look at Amazon reviews. That would be sufficient. They'd be like, oh, great, this one's rated higher. I'll just buy that one, right? But if they're actually in the researching mode, they want real life videos, real life experiences of people that actually own the thing. So not just top 10 lists. I just see this over and over again, it being a good formula for reviewing. So I like the idea of comparing two different drills. And I think later on in the video, he shows like different times on each of the drills. So that's good. Now, my main issue with that clip was, oh, hey, it's Mastering Mayhem. What's going on here? Hello. I'm about to roast your clip, Mastering Mayhem. So my main issue with it was the two things, actually. One is the camera angle. It was too far into frame. Like it was almost like I was trying to show something and it felt like, oh yeah, here's part of this water bottle. And it felt like I couldn't see the whole thing. It was too close to the frame. We needed to pull back. We needed, it's good to show close-ups, but it's better to, especially if you have a high definition camera, to get a further back, a nice staged area. And then when you want to show details to in post editing, just clip into that element. Like if I had a clip and I was showing the water bottle like this, then I could just do a frame of let's say I wanted to show this portion of it, I could just zoom in post editing to right here. So that was one thing. And then the angle with it being straight on, it felt like I couldn't actually see what was happening. What needed to happen was, because the camera was, let's see, to your perspective, the object, the drill was right here. The camera was about right here. What it needed was to be up and to the side a little bit, because I didn't feel like I could sufficiently see it, that there was something just off about the footage to me personally. So that's the first thing. Having footage that close in, it made it so it started to get kind of blurry a couple of times also. And that's just, it's homemade, it's good, it's a review for that. But in many cases, just a few tweaks will make a better viewing experience, which from the YouTube side will contribute to that video spreading further. It'll make the video more interesting to watch. So that's the first thing. The second thing was, I wanted to, RT, I hope you're okay if I did a little research beforehand. I watched the rest of the video, not just that clip. And I loved that it was showing the speed of drilling and that kind of stuff. I just felt like it needed a little bit more. The video itself was, to my memory of it, was these two drills. This is how this one drills, this is how this one drills, with a variety of bits. That's great. But I'm thinking from the audience perspective. I'm thinking, okay, if I'm researching this, what are all the things that I want to know about this? And this potentially is a different video type than what Mastering Mayhem had in mind. But what I'm looking at is, what are they wanting to know if they're going to buy one of these drills? Well, they probably want to know about, battery life. They probably want to know about how long the battery lasts. It had a screen at the end of total cost. but just a bit more in depth of each of those things, I felt like could have taken that video to a much higher level and potentially led to more buyer intent audience, which is kind of what a review video is. There's my take.
Yeah. So Mastering Mayhem does a terrific job, and I'm a big fan. I do like the timers that he puts on there, where he shows the performance of the drills, and he always finds real world examples on all his compares and his tool reviews. So a lot of pluses, but I like that analysis, and I hope he appreciates it.
I hope so too.
So whenever because Nate, whenever you talk on your channel, a lot of times you talk, and you have to kind of more general. You can't be specific, but doing these type of reviews on a specific video is great because you're able to get down into the niche. So like you were talking about with tool reviews, being able to show those in-depth details to help a buyer make a decision, and at the same time have the shots where everything can be clear and can keep the engagement up. What about on woodworking and maker and crafts, how-to videos? Any advice for the not for the intro or for the outro, but for the body of the video? Any general advice for the makers and the woodworkers and the crafters?
Yes. Well, the thing I would say, and maybe I'll put it on this Mastering Mayhem channel again. He just said that was a light roast. Oh, okay, light roast. I'll take that. Challenge accepted, right? So the thing is, I want to know why the audience is there. And the thing is, with a lot of woodworking channels, we get, and I've watched a variety of them, especially in preparation for this live stream, RT. So thank you, RT. It's hard to get the difference between the art, like the artistry of producing something beautiful or useful, and the tutorial, like the how-to. Because you'll often see channels in the woodworking space kind of in an odd in-between space of one video is like, oh, here's how to make this thing. Another video is just showcasing something awesome. And it's not that either of those pieces of content are bad. It's that having clear, defined reasons why the audience watches all the content on your channel is important. I call them subscribability, or the threads that create the subscribability. And so if we went to the extreme of just showing the art, of showing demonstrations, it's a video, hey, look, I made this really cool cabinet. Here's all the steps. Here's some music, that kind of stuff. It's great. But if we go too far to that extreme, then we don't have a connection with the audience, and they don't really have a reason to subscribe or to stick around and watch other videos unless they just like it for the ASMR or like the experience of that. So that's one extreme. The other extreme is total tutorials, where it's like how to make this, how to make this, how to make this. And every single video is how to make this, how to make this, how to make this. So it's a fun balance, because if the other extreme is the tutorials, every single video, you're not going to have, most of the time, you're not going to have a lot of repeat watchers, people that watch every single video, because in most cases, if the intention is to learn how to make that thing, they're not making a new project every single week in most cases, right? So what we need to do is define why the audience watches the channel. And is it for you? Like, is it for you? Like, they like your personality, they like hanging out with you, and they're not necessarily going to be building anything, but they like to watch you build something. That would be a great reason. Another one is if they just like it's relaxing to them. Like, let's say you make videos, it's a short little intro, you say, hey, we're going to make this. And then the majority of the rest of the video is just demonstration with some nice music and a few voiceovers. I see that happening a lot and being successful. So I guess the advice I'd give, especially to woodworking channels, is people don't subscribe just because of your art. And this applies to a lot of artist channels. They don't subscribe and stick around just because of your art. Because if it's just art, it's generic. And it's just the way that marketing is going today. If it's just art, it's forgettable. It's a moment of, oh, that was nice, and they move on. So as you're showing your art or your work that you're creating, you need to make sure that we give them reasons to stick around, to watch other videos on your channel. And that can come in your personality. It can come in how quality your videos are, or how engaging they are, how enjoyable they are to watch. There's a lot of other factors that can be make sure we put in beyond just the art. Is that cool?
That's awesome. You know, it's being I have my own woodworking channel separate from this one, but being a creator is one of the things that's always a challenge in my mindset is what am I going to deliver that someone could not get from a 5-minute Google search? You know, there's instructions to do a lot of the same things, but you have this opportunity through YouTube to share that experience with them and share yourself and have a good time and hopefully provide an experience that they'll want to come back for.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
100%. I agree.
I have 12 milestones and questions queued up. Let's hit some of those before we get to the last clip.
Sounds good.
Okay. Ben Marshall says, Nate, hope you're feeling better now.
I am feeling better. Thank you, Ben.
NE Dronalist says, question for Nate. Why are you so awesome? You stole that from me, Barry. You're stealing my comments.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I guess, am I awesome? I don't know.
You're awesome.
I guess I'm awesome.
Yeah. Barry, the Northeast Dronalist, I love his Dronalist channel, and he and I have become friends over it. Anybody that likes overhead shots like that, drone shots, you should go check him out.
I've been curious into exploring more drone stuff, so I'm gonna have to look into that because it's kind of it's a new direction that I've been curious about exploring. I had a question for you, RT, before I get to this next one. How do you get such an amazing beard? Like, that is luscious. That's amazing.
Well, the first step is to lose everything on top.
I don't know about that. I've got a lot going on back here.
No. If I had your curls up there, I'd be set for life. So, you know, most people think it's being lazy to have a beard. This is a lot more work than hair ever was.
Oh, really?
But, you know, you figure out what to put in it, how to shape it, keep it trimmed right, and hope it works out. The curls are natural.
Oh, nice. Nice.
All right.
Appreciation there.
Thank you. Appalachian Heritage Woodshop. Okay. This guy's a real pro. Been woodworking for over 5 decades. Have a AAS degree, which I'm not familiar with that acronym, but I know it's a degree in fine woodworking, as he says here. Taught woodworking, own and host a show on a local PBS station, and know woodworking. Need help on social media. Thanks. Mm-hmm. So I've spoken to him before, and he's looking at expanding his social media presence, not just YouTube, but Instagram, Facebook, etc. Any tips for doing that so that he can entice some sponsors to help his channel grow? Or his program grow, his PBS program?
Yeah. So different social channels have different viewer behavior. And so what you decide to do will depend on what type of content you want to make and the type of audience you want to attract. So, I mean, we all know the classic TikTok or YouTube Shorts is viewer behavior of short bursts of entertaining content, move on, short bursts, move on. And then Instagram tends to lend itself to more of a visual nature. So if you're doing a lot of projects like woodworking or etc., Instagram can be, I've seen it be extremely successful for that. because it's visual photographs and you can post multiple times a day. So sponsorships on Instagram are often easier than on YouTube, actually, because it's just one post among many versus maybe it's your one video for the week and it has to do well, right? Where on Instagram, it's all the time, right? So that's one factor. I'm not as familiar with Twitter, but it's from my knowledge, it's definitely for thought leadership type of stuff. If you want to share thought leadership, you want to be a face of something and share a lot of ideas in small segments, small text segments, then that's Twitter. The thing with YouTube is it's social media, but one of the things that I like about it so much is you can create your own library of content, and it's easy to find your content relatively compared to the other social platforms. You are creating a type of content that people can watch, they can come back and they can watch over and over again. So no matter what your goal is, like if it's to get leads or to get more publicity, if you're being successful on YouTube and garnering audience, it starts to snowball. And people who find your new content or any of your content can find the rest of your content because YouTube is literally built to find the right content for the right audience and match the two. And it's free. You don't have to pay for ads. I mean, you can do that on YouTube, but if you do it right, it's just totally organic. And so you can basically be setting up an entire free pipeline of content to whatever you're leading people to. So that's why I personally like YouTube a lot, because it's a very engaging format, being video format, and then it's evergreen. It's easy to find your content in the future. People don't have to, like other platforms, it's a lot harder to search for content. So yeah.
Awesome. I hope that that helped.
Yeah.
So thank you. All right. Why did you start Channel Makers?
So that's a good question, Make with Jake. So, you know, when you, how do I put this? When you talk about things that get you excited, one of the things that I noticed much earlier than I started doing YouTube was I noticed that I got really excited when I'd be talking with someone and I saw that they could make something. They could make something cool, like a business or like what they were really interested in, and they could market it. They could all those things. I just got really excited, and it was like when you talk about like a natural talent or a natural interest. For me, it was when I would talk to someone and I could see, like my sister, for example, she's very into organizing. She's very, very good at it, very intelligent. And when I would talk to her and she would just tell me about this new technique she came up with to make your life more simple and that kind of thing, I would just get excited because I didn't just want it to stay with her. I wanted more people to have that gift that she had. And so when I found YouTube, you know, I've been watching it for a while, but I started to realize more and more that it was a platform to do exactly that, for people to have something that they care about. And if I could help them to take that and not just do it for themselves or, you know, the people in their own four walls, but actually to share it with other people. Not that there's anything wrong with sharing it with your own family and friends. It's just, in many cases, I just got excited about what it could be. And I still do. And so whenever I'm able to see a channel or a person, it's more about the person than the channel, honestly. Whenever I'm able to see a person that I see something in them, and then I see them creating something, and YouTube's a great platform for it, and they start getting audience and they start being able to make a living out of it, I just get super excited about that. So that's how I got started on it.
Awesome. Well, we're glad you did. And thanks, Jake, for that comment. All right, Dusty Trails Workshop says, what's your favorite style of cuts and transitions? Then your favorite scene where that was executed.
Wow. I'm assuming we're talking YouTube cuts, transitions, because I mean, cinematography is a whole different ballgame, right?
Yeah, I would assume we're talking YouTube because that's our
yeah,
focus.
You would assume so, right? So with I like it. So a few of them. I don't know that I would say these are my favorite of all times, but one of them I really like, and I don't use this as much as I would like to, is when you kind of break. YouTube's kind of breaking the fourth wall. Where you're talking to the camera. All of YouTube is kind of that, but where you break the wall of this is a produced piece of content to like behind the scenes in the middle of the video. And the way I've seen that done is if you're if you have something to interject, so your people are watching the regular video, it feels like a regular video, and then all of a sudden it transitions into, let's say I was editing on my screen right here. It transitions, and let's say this was my camera. I have my camera, and so I pause it and I pull out, and you see that I was editing the video. And then I turn to myself and I interject and I say, oh, by the way, this thing changed since I was editing this, or it's almost like a behind the scenes. I like it because it's kind of clever because you pull out and it's a transition into regular life and then you can go right back in if you want to. And also it makes you a real person because they see that it's not just a video. You have to actually edit the video also and produce it. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. So I have done that a few times, but not for a while on my own channel. So that's a good question.
Yeah, very good. Let's see. Thank you. All right, next one up is John from Lincoln Street Woodworks. John started his channel about a year ago and quickly has grown it to over 100,000 subscribers. And he's been a guest on the show. So he says, other than theater, what is your background?
Well, I've always been interested in commercials. It's kind of funny. So I would, probably younger than most other kids my age, I would tell my mom about these commercials that I could come up with. This commercial for this cereal I really liked, or that type of stuff. So I think I've always thought in terms of marketing, et cetera. And so previous to this, I did a variety of online marketing type of things, nothing in video, as well, and website design and building. As well as I did a variety of sales calling in events, and then running kind of mastermind or coaching events, the large type of events you go to learn some skill set, that type of thing. So I did a lot of that also. I think it's been an ongoing interest to just, why do people do what they do? I often ask myself questions like that, or I'll see an ad on a billboard or the side of the street, and I'll be asking myself, how effective is that? Did that actually work? How do I feel as a result of that? So I think that's another thing that's kind of been fun about YouTube, because very few other places that I can think of do you get such real-time feedback on how you are doing. Did you make something good or not good? And YouTube tells you really fast based on the results. So that's been really cool.
Awesome. So at this point, if everybody could put in the chat, or if you're watching this on replay, put in the comments your favorite video from Nate's channel, or the principle that you learned from Nate that has changed the way you did YouTube, because I'd like to see that. And Nate, although
I'd like to see that too. Thank you.
Although you're a kind of a proponent of not saying please subscribe, at this point, if you're getting anything out of this content, we have lots of other live streams you could go check out, and we have more in the future that could benefit you. So please subscribe, and let's progress that. So Nate, before we move on, can you tell us about Project 24 and what it offers to your clients?
Would love to. See. Oh, so here's the thing. For everybody watching, one of the most common questions I get is, well, isn't everything that to learn on YouTube, isn't it already available for free on YouTube? So why the heck would you have a separate program that's paid nonetheless? Oh no, why would you have that? And my response to that, actually, most of the time is, well, the very nature of YouTube is it's a bunch of fragmented tips, and you know this much better than most people. You watching this know this much better than most people. It's a series of fragmented tips most of the time. So it's like, oh, here's this skill set, here's this skill set, here's this skill set. And I started to see over time that oftentimes what we need is a sequence. Do this, then this, then this, then this. And so I built the entire like YouTube system at Project 24 to just be that, to help along the way. We need the sequence. So this, then this, then this, according to the exact channel that you're trying to make, which actually, RT, you were talking about that earlier, where it's often generic. Very true, because we have to appeal to a large audience. We can't say, these are the tips if your channel looks like this. But within a program like the YouTube system, it can get much more honed in on exact tactics and skill sets in the right sequence. The other thing that I saw in a lot of cases was most of the time, is not always the case, but a lot of times when we're looking for the right community, the support, it's hard to find that if it's not a dedicated community. So I do live masterminds where I'm there. It's over Zoom, and I'm helping people out that way. So hope that answers your question. I think it's very effective. And if you, RT was saying, you can see current numbers of how many people have been able to help reach income milestones and stuff. Because the goal is just helping people to provide well for their family from YouTube. So, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that I appreciate about your channel, and I'm sure you've applied this to Project 24, and I'm not a member of it yet, but one of the things that I really like is you test data. You test theories and then provide the data before you're making suggestions. I mean, I appreciate it so often. You're having a query to your audience, asking for input, asking for images of their statistics, but I know you have other channels that you're testing data with as well, right?
Yep.
And that is so much more effective. That is so impactful to know that that's real life experience talking and not just theories. There's a lot of YouTube educators out there on YouTube right now. Some people accuse me of being one, but I'm not trying to be one. I bring on guests and let them be the educator. So, but it's all one big experiment, but you have put a scientific method around it where you have controls to gather that data, and then you find creative ways to proposition it to your audience. And then it's up to us if we're going to apply it or not. And a lot of times we like the theories, it's just hard to implement. I appreciate all these feedbacks for that question that I gave. Let's read another question before we move on. Ben Marshall says, how do you qualify which ideas make it to production and which ones get axed or shelved?
I would ask a follow-up question of Ben. I don't know about your channel, but if you were asking me that in person, I would look at your channel and say, how many videos have you published thus far? Because it gets easier over time. It becomes a sixth sense for the most part. You still have misses, so over time, you're going to find that you'll start to understand what dynamics of different video ideas are good for your audience and which aren't. And so how I look at it is when I'm planning content for a channel, and I'm going to recommend this to everybody watching here, start keeping track of the types of videos that do well on your channel. If a video does extraordinarily well, or even just slightly better, even if I don't care if your normal view count is, let's say, 1,000 views on a video, and you publish a video and it gets 1,200, or I would say maybe 1,500, that video did slightly better. I'm gonna, if I see that happening, become a student of your own channel. I'm gonna look at that video and I'm gonna say, what was different about that video? Because that will start to give you clues. You'll start to see, okay, there was something about the idea. It was an appealing idea. Or when I used this word in my title, it was more appealing. And likewise with the opposite. If a video does extra bad, why did it do bad? Start asking those types of questions. And the thing is, you're not going to know all the answers. I don't know all the answers. Nobody's going to have all of the answers, but the very act of asking those types of questions is putting you in a whole different league than most people on YouTube, because you are asking questions that are training yourself to understand what makes a good idea, what makes good content on YouTube. And so when you start doing that, back to Ben's question here, you start to get a sense before you even produce the video, when you're just writing down your midnight inspiration, you're taking notes on your phone, and you're saying, oh, here's an idea for, it's at midnight. And then the next morning you look at your idea and you say, actually, that's not a good idea. And you start to get a better sense of it being good or not good before you even produce it. But the thing is, again, coming back to Ben, or anyone, if you were to ask me this, I would start asking, how many videos have you published across all of, YouTube or et cetera? Because a lot of it comes with practice and asking yourself those questions. Why did this video do better? Why did this video do worse? Look at the outliers and you'll start to get clues for those types of things. That's a really good question.
Yep. Pretty awesome. Let's do one comment, then we're going to go to the last video and you'll know why I picked this comment. So John from Lincoln Street Woodworks, this is John, who went from 0 to 100,000 subscribers in less than a year. So he kind of knows what he's doing most of the time. Nate, my favorite aspect of your channel is critical thinking and not repeating the echo chamber of how to grow tips. So I think he makes a great point, because like I said before, there's other YouTube educators, but there's a lot of repetition out there, and your videos may say some of the same things, but in a different way. And then you have videos that show that a completely different approach. And I know we appreciate that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Let's go back to sharing and share our last clip, which is actually from John from Lincoln Street Woodworks. Sorry about the delay. I'm trying to get there.
Oh, that's fine. No worries.
Here we go.
Oh man, that right there is all you all need to see to know why his channel grew so quickly. And again, this is to you, John, Lincoln Street Woodworks. So that was an outro. I watched the rest of the video. It was a great video. So here's what I think is working there. We're doing, and this is not by no means a recommendation that everybody else go out and do this same thing. It works for John because it fits him. But what he's doing is he's taking woodworking plus another broad appeal topic, Star Wars, and combining the two in a humorous way. So it adds a lot of personality, a lot of connection. And so when people watch one of his videos, it feels distinct. Get this, it feels distinctly different and memorable. And so when people watch something like that outro, where it's demonstrating, hey, I just built this Death Star thing, to put my tools on, it's memorable. And I'm pretty sure everybody watching this will remember that, like, oh my goodness, it was kind of a humorous thing we had imposing in different locations. I think that's the primary reason why the channel's grown so quickly, because it's memorable, because we've combined woodworking, an interest, with Star Wars, a broad appeal interest, and I hope you're taking notes here, with personality. We've combined those three things to make something memorable for people. So that's my take on why that is working. So as far as roasting, I don't have anything to roast about that clip. I thought it was great.
Okay. So it's obviously a great clip, and actually John shared with me the retention on this video, and it is up there. So conventional wisdom among the educators on YouTube about YouTube is that on your outro, you should be talking to the audience, tell them why they should watch the next video, and be pointing to it like a crazy person. So why does this outro work and keep people on his channel when it doesn't go along with that standard? It challenges that standard logic.
Very good point. Very, very good point, RT, to bring up. The thing here is I am normally a proponent of that. And if you watch any of my videos, I do that all the time, you know, giving a clear, distinct reason to watch the next video on your channel. There's an exception to that I wouldn't say for every channel. So watching this, use some wisdom if you're deciding what to do here. If you've created a very enjoyable, the keywords are enjoyable and easily consumable piece of content, people had a pleasant experience with your content, then naturally they're more likely to want to watch the rest of your content or other videos on your channel. And so a lot of times what happens is people are there for a skill set, which is often the case with channel makers, for example. They're there for a skill set, they're for some tips. And so it makes sense to lead them to a next point, a next, you know, something that they need to acquire, some skill set that will actually help them further. It kind of makes sense to lead them that way. But if your content is such that people are watching a lot, for the audience intent for watching it is entertainment, like they're there just to have a fun time and enjoy your content, then that becomes a little bit less important. That whole like point them to a distinct other video, and in some cases can actually be a distraction. That's why I don't say this most of the time, because at that point you're leveraging the natural behavior of viewers and suggested content on YouTube. So they watch one video, and if YouTube sees that when people watch one of your videos, you create a reputation with the algorithm that when they watch one of your videos, people seek out others of your videos to watch, then it becomes more natural. And YouTube starts using their suggestion algorithm to put it on the side of your screen if you're watching on desktop, or below the video on mobile, to suggest more videos. And it's almost like they're doing it for you at that point, which is actually often superior than the other format. So that's why I would put that on there. Most of the time I'm going to stick with most of the time directing them to a single other video. But if the video that they just watched was extremely enjoyable, you can use other methods, like what I just described.
Yep. And it's definitely working for him, and I like it.
Go too.
Okay. So let's hit a few questions here. Mackenzie Lumbermill, Sandy says, I know controversy sells. Any advice on opposite personalities? My grumpy lumberjack and I go head to head. Not sure if my audience wants to see us yipping. He also can really lose it. So she has Sandy's on there, and her husband is on there, and she plays off of his personality in the videos sometimes, which is entertaining from my standpoint. What do you recommend?
Do you want that? That's my question for Sandy. Do you want that? Do you want people to know that as a part of your channel? Do you want that to be one of the reasons why they watch your channel? Because there are entire channels that are built around controversy, you know, that are built around grumpy people or angry people or arguing or that type of stuff. So to answer this question, do you want that? Do you want your audience to be watching that, and you want to be publicizing that? And are you okay with that? Because if you are, I don't see an issue with it. The only concern I would have is if it became too much of a thing and you started finding that you couldn't get views on a video unless it had that type of controversy in it. That would mean that you leaned too far into it, and it would be time to pull back then. And the other thing is, YouTube has said that in general, they want people to have a positive experience on YouTube. They want people to, the keyword's positive. And so it's not that they will totally suppress negative sounding videos. They appear all the time. So it's not, obviously they're not doing that. But in general, they have said that in general, they want to promote positive videos. Now, and so it's just a calculated, I guess, a strategic choice you would make there. Is it do you want to publicize that? And if so, let's make sure we put it in so it doesn't overtake the channel, type of thing.
Awesome. Let's go to our next.
If done well, sorry, one more thing on that. If done
Sure.
well, Sandy, with your personality, and if he's really grumpy, that could make for very entertaining content. Because you strike me as very, upbeat and a lot of personality. And if he's grumpy, if he's okay with this, that could be a really, really entertaining type of content. So yeah.
Yeah, play it off as that fun grumpy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. If you had a lot of fun with him being the grumpy character, man, that's good.
So Justin's Woodworks, who had sent me this keychain in the shape of South Carolina.
Oh, nice.
And he's a young man operating a channel. Just got my first wood lathe. Well, congratulations, Justin. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And Four Oaks Craft says fine woodworking versus beginner, weekend woodworker. That may be two different audiences. I think this was a response
Very true
to something you were saying earlier,
whenever
you were talking about knowing your audience.
Yeah, I mean, the extremes would be, and I think I'm just backing up what Four Oaks Crafts was saying here. The extremes would be that there's the people that build, like, I'm sure a lot of you saw it. Somebody built like a Bentley out of wood for his little kid a while back. It was beautiful and all that, but that would be very different audience than someone that's trying to begin in woodworking, right? Because one is just, oh, that was a really cool project, and the other is, I want to do stuff. So yeah, potentially very different audiences.
Hillbilly Chick says, I hit 500 subscribers over the weekend.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Well on your way to that silver play button. Congratulations, Nate, by the way, on your play button. I know you've had it, you haven't had it long, but you're about 100, almost 115,000 now. Are there cycles or waves in YouTube? I was enjoying a nice spike in views to my channel kicking off in November till mid-January, and then all of a sudden it feels like the views stopped. The same with subs.
Yep. Seasonality. There's a lot of factors that will go on. Seasonality is one of the biggest. The most obvious example is if the majority of your audience is in North America, we'll say that, and you have a gardening channel, when do you think there would be the most interest in gardening content? When people are gardening, right? And so oftentimes it can be harder to determine for some niches, some types of channels. The end of the year, November till January, there's a lot of consumerism, and there's also a lot of gift giving in a lot of societies because of the Christmas season, that type of thing. And so a lot of channels will see a spike during that time period because people are looking to, maybe a lot of people are saying, if it was like woodworking, for example, maybe they're looking to make something special for their loved ones. And so they start searching up more of that content at the end of the year, is because they want to make a gift. That could be an example. Another example could be New Year's resolutions. People are saying, this year I'm going to acquire a hobby, and therefore, up till about when did you say mid-January? Yeah, about mid-January, you might see spikes in people saying, I'm going to acquire a new hobby this year, and then they drop off because their resolutions failed or stuff like that. Another big one that a lot of people don't realize, especially if they have like a gaming channel, I know a lot of people don't, but is school. School starting back up. A lot of those types of channels will see a big drop when school starts. because less free time from their audience means lower viewership. So and I think that comes back to just understanding the audience, like where are they in their life? Are there events that happened? More recently, like the video I published today, there could be world events that are affecting the attention of everybody. If everybody's all of a sudden shifting to looking at news versus hobbies, that's something to keep in mind also.
And for woodworkers, the price of lumber and gasoline is affecting interest at this point, I think, as
I
well.
didn't think of that.
You
Very true.
So it's seasonal plus current events.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true.
Sandy again, Mackenzie Lumbermill. She was so excited to have you on here. I have a split audience. I pivoted my DIY channel to a journey of sawmill life. Could you give me some advice? How do I know my avatar and deliver what they want?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's two angles we can go here. So first of all, to the split audience thing, I would usually recommend that we just focus on one. Focus on one, grow that one. It has higher likelihood of being successful, and then you don't run into one video doing well for a certain audience and then the other one not doing well. So usually it's better to have one primary audience. So I would pick one. But then to the second point of how do I know my avatar and deliver what they want? The simplest way I've looked at this, well, there's the way of like writing out, what do they eat for breakfast? What time do they wake up? All of those details. There's that avatar, the audience avatar exercise type of thing. And that's helpful and that's good. But one of the hacks to that is, what kind of content would I like to watch? And just be your audience. Or if you're already a certain way, just make content kind of for yourself. Like when you think, oh, this would be a really fun video to watch, start with that. Because as you're growing, you'll get more of a sense of what types of content your audience likes. You'll get a better sense of how to pivot, etc. But at the beginning, it's especially about making content that you enjoy making. Because when you enjoy it, then it comes across on camera and people enjoy watching it more. That's one of the easiest ways to get people to enjoy your content if you are enjoying making content. It's a hack. There you go. There's your tip for the day, right? There's your hack. Because if you aren't enjoying it, people know. They're going to know. And it's a lot harder to hide it when you have a smaller channel, when you aren't enjoying it. So hope that's helpful.
Everybody likes a good hack. I think it's one of the most searched terms on YouTube. So let's see, celebrating with someone. I'm almost at 400 subs. Congratulations.
Congrats.
Keep it going.
Congrats.
Keep releasing those videos. Keep that momentum. We've got Justin's Woodworks. Again, this is our young person with a channel. Do you have any tips for a starting YouTuber? And I'll let you know, this is a teenager.
Great. Subscribe to Channel Makers. Just kidding. Project 24. But really, seriously. One of them I would say is actually just what I just said to Sandy's question is make videos that you enjoy. Like, enjoy it. It's not all going to be fun. Maybe you hate editing, but you enjoy recording. Maybe you hate recording, but you love editing. But as much as possible, make videos about ideas that you are excited about, because that comes before a lot of other things. You can be strategic, but first, foundational is just enjoy it. Then, when you're being strategic, do your best to apply what you learn as quickly as possible. It's easy to get caught in analysis or thinking. So actually a theme for myself right now is think less, do more. And I think a lot of starting YouTubers would benefit from doing that. Think less, do more. If it came down to checking the app for the 50th time that day to see if you gained another subscriber versus recording another video, I would record another video. Ignore your analytics. Most of the time, you're not going to get you're not going to get enough data to prove actionable advice or new directions from your analytics, especially when your channel's small. So just completely ignore it. I know it's tempting. I know it's tempting to look at it, but I would recommend just ignoring it and using that time or that energy to be just thinking up ideas that would be really fun to make and just making them. Trying new angles, trying new skills. When you learn a new skill, let's say you're watching a channel maker's video and they say, do this skill set or try this in your next video, go do it in your very next video. Because incremental action will get you much further faster than just agonizing or overanalyzing. That's a great question.
Analysis paralysis is a real thing, and it's
so true.
It's caught us all at some point. I believe anybody that likes the statistics, which I like to dive in to the statistics. I find it very enjoyable. Justin, if you haven't, go watch the video where I had John from Lincoln Street on as a guest, and we spent over an hour, and he gave away some of the secrets to what he did during his first year, and so maybe that would help out.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
Go watch all the videos on Channel Makers. John says, what's the biggest misconception people have about growing a channel?
That's good. That's good. I'm giving this some good thought here. This is going to sound directly opposite from what I just said. Because I just said, focus on what you enjoy doing. But the biggest misconception is that YouTube is, it sounds stupid to say it, but I keep saying it over and over again, is that YouTube is easy or doesn't require a lot of work to be successful with. It is work. And you know this, watching this very well. But oftentimes the best thing that will help your channel is the most grindy thing, like the thing that's just, I just hate doing that. Oftentimes that's the best thing that's going to help the next thing with growing your channel. Which is, I guess, coming back to why I say, like, if you make it a habit of learning, let's say you're going through the process phases, we'll say Project 24, and you make it a habit of watching videos, but not necessarily applying them, application is hard a lot of times. And so I think people often think, well, this should be fun all the time. I'm passionate about it. I like this topic matter. I like the subject. But the thing is, when you get on YouTube, it's an entire new language. In fact, that's actually a good way to think about it. Just think about when you get on YouTube, you are learning a new language. It is rough to learn a new language, but you are learning it. And so whatever you can do to practice that language, get good at it, it will help. And application always helps. So that was a good question. Yeah.
Good question. And Nate, I appreciate you hanging on with us. People have questions, and I'm hoping you can stick around.
I'm having fun. No, this is good. Let's stick around.
My Growth Rings, which is a good channel. He says, what are your thoughts on off-platform advertising? My audience skews older, 55 plus, and I suspect the larger potential audience is somewhere off of YouTube, perhaps on Facebook, AARP, etc.
9 times out of the 10, I say do not do that, because this is the main reason. This question comes up fairly often, but this is good. It bears repeating here. The main reason I say don't promote outside of YouTube is because when traffic comes from outside of YouTube, the YouTube algorithm doesn't have as much data on that audience, which means they don't have as much to go off of to do what they are strongest at, they're best at, and that is matching your content with the right audience. And that's where you start to see the snowball of browse and suggested traffic. That's why I say most of the time, I don't recommend doing that. The exception, the 1 out of 10 times, I'm going to say is if the other group is very targeted and it's exactly the audience that you want on your channel. If that's the case, then with enough of that kind of traffic, if let's say it's on Facebook, you share a video, something like that, you get 100 people coming from Facebook post. Well, I'm just sharing an example. You get 100 people go from that Facebook post to your YouTube channel. Enough of those people, if they are the right audience, will be already logged into YouTube, which means the algorithm can track and see this is the right audience. Okay, get some data on that audience and saying, okay, this is what this channel's about. And so even if only 10 out of those 100 people are logged in, if they're still the right audience, that was still a benefit to classifying your channel to the algorithm. That's a good question. But yeah, that's the short and sweet.
Excellent. Okay. Annie Jones says, I am hitting a wall in the growth of my channel. What should I focus on primarily to get some movement? Should I focus on titles, thumbnails, first line in the description?
Mm-hmm. Good. So my first question for Annie Jones would be, why is your audience watching? Like, why do you, and even if you don't have a huge audience, it's okay. Why do you want your audience to watch? Do you want them to watch because it's useful videos, because it's entertaining, because they like you, whatever it is? And based on the answer to that, I would focus on this. So if your audience is there for useful videos, I would focus first on useful video ideas. Start with that. And what I mean by that is when you come up with the idea for the video for your audience, if you can say, dang, that's a very good, useful idea for my audience, that will be so helpful to them. If you can say that, lead out with that. Lead out with those types of ideas. I'm glad you asked that because I hadn't voiced it that way before, but it's so true. And similarly, if your audience is there because you make funny videos, lead with funny ideas. Where you just think of the idea and you're just laughing like, man, that's a funny idea. That's a great idea for a video. Lead with that. So that would be, it's just whatever your channel is looking for. And I'm seeing this reply in Annie Jones. Thank you. Unique and fun creations. Okay, great. So yeah, lead with what you want your audience to be there for and start with that. Ideas for videos that are just, wow, that's a great idea for whatever reason. And then from there, that shapes your title next. And then that shapes your thumbnail third. Thumbnails are your third thought. I often repeat that. So if you start with a good video idea, it pulls you through the entire process of title and thumbnail. Do those three things before you produce any of the rest of the video. Great idea, then title, then thumbnail, and then the rest of the video. The rest of the video will be much easier at that point.
All right. N.E. Journalist says, what's your favorite YouTube channel to watch? And I know he means besides N.E. Journalist and Married Man Woodworking and Woodworking YouTubers.
That's right.
Who else is there to watch?
Oh man. So some of them I've enjoyed, I kind of cycle through channels. Mark Rober, that's a big one that's been kind of fun. I just love his experiments. He just does crazy things like the glitter bomb, the package thief glitter bomb. I've loved that one. There's actually a gaming channel that I don't normally watch a lot of gaming content, but this one I keep coming back to because their storytelling is so dang good. And their whole goal is to break games and see how many glitches they can find in the game. It's called Let's Game It Out. That one's been another one that I've enjoyed watching. Trying to think of I'm sure there's other ones, but those are the first two that come to mind. Yeah.
All right. Justin again says, what's the best editor app? And I guess I would ask you, what app do you recommend on a phone versus what app do you recommend on a PC or a Mac?
Mm-hmm. So I'm guilty of not using editing on my phone. So I don't know. I wouldn't consider my opinion authoritative on that. What I use is Final Cut Pro. That's because I use Mac everywhere. I use Mac. Main reasons: it's robust, it does what it does, and it's not a recurring cost, such as the Adobe. What's the Adobe option? Premiere Pro. That one's a monthly cost. I have been testing DaVinci Resolve, which is a free app. Unless you pay by the studio, then it's comparative to Final Cut, and it works on Windows or Mac. And it seems very capable, what I've tested thus far. I'm not at the point where I can give it like a big recommendation yet, but so those would be the two that I would use. So Final Cut if you have a Mac, or DaVinci Resolve if you have a PC.
Awesome. Sorry, my daughter's sliding notes to me underneath the door. So, all right. R.A. Charlie guy, he's always got good questions, says, how do you feel about most of it, all videos where you are absent from camera? Okay, so he's talking about a faceless video, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just show the content and voicing over the whole time. How do you feel about those type of videos?
I think they're great. I think they can work great. Biggest issues, and you already know this if you're asking this question, is one of the shortcuts to building connection with an audience and those subscribability factors, like the things why people subscribe and watch all your content, is your face, because we're hardwired drawn to faces, like to see faces in thumbnails and those types of things. I mean, they see that from studies from, brand new babies, they look at faces, right? And so it's just naturally we're more drawn to faces. It's easier to establish trust when our face is on camera. However, it's not necessary. But it's a different skill set. If you're just showing your content and voicing over and that type of thing, you still need to make an interesting video. And so there are other ways to do that. One of them is having really interesting footage, right? But another is having personality. If let's say you're using your voice in a voiceover, right? Is adding personality, jokes, that type of stuff to the voiceover. Those channels I've seen basically indistinguishable success from a channel showing their face. I didn't used to say that, by the way, but I have enough evidence of seeing that working, that it can work just fine. Just know that it's a different skill set, and you still have to make interesting videos. And in some ways, you actually have to work harder if you aren't showing your face, because you don't have the benefit of the facial expressions and the emotions. Also, that applies to thumbnails. So that's a good question.
Excellent. All right. So Duck River Homestead says, my audience is always not made for kids. MFK, my latest one is my 4-year-old giving a tour of the homestead. I don't plan on pivoting towards MFK, but I set this video to made for kids. Is that a bad? Is that a bad idea?
Made for kids is interesting because YouTube tends to play on the safe side on made for kids content. So two ways. If you look at your video and you say, could this video reasonably be construed to be targeting a kid's audience? And if the answer is yes, then you should probably classify it as made for kids. And then the second is, if you show kids in the video, which is what I'm hearing here, like your 4-year-old giving a tour of the homestead, I think that's a cute video idea. But I have known of rather large channels who showed the channel was very obviously for parents, but they showed their kids in a variety of videos, and it got flagged by YouTube as made for kids because they wanted to protect minors, right? And so it took this channel several months getting that taken off of their channel, because it's generally not good for most channels to be made for kids, because comments are disabled, ads don't make as much. There's a variety of things there. So in this case, is that bad? Not necessarily. In the future, I might look at maybe having just portions of the tour being given by the 4-year-old, just for fun effect. And then at that case, I would feel confident not marking it as made it for kids. In most cases, I would avoid making videos as made for kids unless you're targeting kids, like you're directly doing that. So as much as possible, if your content is borderline, make it very obvious that it's targeted at adults. So I hope that answers your question.
And it's there to protect kids, and we want to do that. And I agree, but sometimes it's hard to define when a video is made for kids and when it's not. I mean, just because it has a child in it at some point doesn't mean that it was made for kids. But the policies are there to protect children, and we're all about that.
And yeah, and YouTube does tend to play it very safe on the conservative side of that. Meaning, if there's any question, they're much more likely to pull the trigger and say this channel's made for kids than otherwise, because they don't want to get in trouble. So that's why I say make it abundantly obvious. If your channel is not made for kids, make it very obvious. I've heard some people joking about how they would just swear sometimes in their videos. So just so it's, not made for kids, I'm just going to throw swear words in there randomly. So if the algorithm, if YouTube was like, it's made for kids, like, no, it's not. Anyway, I haven't tested that, but I think it's a funny idea.
Nate, what do you define as clickbait? We watched your videos talking about clickbait, but we really want to be sure we do not use it.
So funny enough, I actually have a video in the works right now, literally talking about clickbait. I think I'm going to call it how to use clickbait to grow your channel. The title or the thumbnail is going to say, this is clickbait or something. I really am. I've got that in the works right now. It's just funny this comes up. So I guess I'll give you a little sneak preview of that. I see clickbait not as black or white, like it's either clickbait or it's not clickbait. Because at its core, clickbait is marketing. And if you want to take it a step back, it's making an appealing idea, communicating an appealing idea for an audience. That could be called clickbait in a lot of cases. And so I categorize it in three categories. We've got, good bait, which is actually good bait. There's bad bait, which is what often is referred to as clickbait, and then gray bait, which is kind of the in-between, could be one or the other. So bad bait is where you are, most of the time, I would define it as implying something very strongly that is not present in the video itself. And so that's fairly cut and dried. If you, in your title and thumbnail, imply something very strongly that's just not present in the video at all, that is bad clickbait. It's bad bait. Good clickbait is using appealing ideas to show what's in the video or create intrigue that you deliver on. That's a good thing. And to be competitive on YouTube, you have to do that. It's just how it works. Because of the volume of videos made every single day, in order to be found, you just have to create good, appealing ideas, and market them well, right? Now, gray bait's a little bit more tricky, and maybe I'll just hold off on that until I publish the video, because there's some gray area on it. It comes more into like individuals' interpretation of the clickbait used in the video versus not. But maybe I'll cover that in a video later or something.
Okay, Nate, we're going to watch your video whether you spoil it here or not. So. No, I understand. No, that's great. Thank you for that question. Here we have Saman from Woodcraft by Saman. What are some qualitative measures that you think YouTube attempts to quantify to determine viewer satisfaction?
Well, that's a good question. They are rightly so fairly cagey on communicating exactly what they're looking at, because if they communicate exactly what they're looking at, all of a sudden everybody would be doing that, right? So they try to make people make enjoyable content, play along with the algorithm, all of that, right? So obviously, okay, so there's a quantifiable view time, click-through rate, all of those factors. Qualitative, I like to think that maybe this is what you're looking for, Woodcraft by Suman, maybe not, but I like to think that they're watching a lot more than just an individual video's behavior. They're watching all about how you interact with the content. And they take indicators to guesstimate how satisfied you are with the content, because they have said this. They're leaning more and more and more into viewer satisfaction. If viewers are satisfied with a piece of content, then that's a good piece of content in the algorithm's eyes, and it will be promoted. But I like to think that they don't just look at your video; they look at the audience first, and how they behave on YouTube, all around YouTube. Where do they pause when they're scrolling through the homepage? Where do they pause to look at a video? Oh, maybe that's an indicator. Where do they watch? If it's on mobile, you know how it starts previewing, the little preview. How much of the preview do they watch before they click through or they move on? How do they behave around channels? Is this the type of audience that always likes videos, or is this one that never likes videos? So when they like a video, it's a big deal. I like to think that they're looking at a lot more than what we realize with the analytics, to try to basically predict human behavior and human satisfaction. The other thing they are doing is more of those surveys. I don't know if you've seen those, where they'll have a bunch of emojis, like 5 in a row. How good is this recommendation for you? And then they ask you to vote. Those are little mini surveys they've been doing more and more.
Yeah, I've seen those. John just pointed out, would imagine they have certain words or phrases in the comments section to play a factor.
Yep.
They have all the data. And I have a theory I'm gonna share with you, based on my previous job and potentially part of my current job, but I can't go into proprietary details. But whenever a system is evaluating something, say in this case, the YouTube algorithm is evaluating a video for performance and for how it's going to treat that video, it evaluates it. And in what I've dealt with before, it makes a decision with a treatment plan. So I'm going to treat it with this audience for X amount of time, and it will get this many impressions. And I think that the system, probably like systems I've worked with, sets a reevaluation date. And that explains why some videos seem to have an uptick in click-through rate and other factors. They might actually show improvement, but the algorithm, I don't know if there is such a thing. The program has decided that I'm going to reevaluate that next Friday. So between now and then, here's the treatment plan. Because if it had to reevaluate every video on YouTube every day or every certain number of hours, that processing would take forever. But if it could say, this looks like the direction of this video, I'm going to reevaluate it next week. I have no way to prove that theory, but I feel like something like that might be going on as well.
We saw something very similar to that with the release of YouTube Shorts, where a lot of people would see a spike, then a flat, then a spike, then a flat. That was like real time, them testing their systems. And it would often be flat for a long time, and then all of a sudden it would be spike, which would suggest something similar to what you were just saying.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'd love to dive into the back end of the programming there and figure it out, but so would every other YouTuber.
Right.
Okay. I'm sorry, Nate, that I'm keeping you so long.
Oh, you're good.
Woodworking in a Wheelchair says, I've been having trouble editing and thumbnails. What can I do to learn more?
There's great videos about that on various channels. So I have one on Channel Makers for thumbnails, where I basically outline my rules for creating a good thumbnail. I think I called it How to Make Extremely Clickable Thumbnails. You can check that out for thumbnails. I also have actually super in-depth in tools that I've built to help with the process in Project 24. So if that's something you're looking for also. As far as editing, I don't do as much of that on Channel Makers, but I do know Ed from Film Booth. He's a great guy. He does a lot more of the editing side of things. So you might check out a few of his videos.
Excellent. Okay. I can never say this name correct. I know you.
Centímetros y pulgados.
There, that exactly.
Linton.
So, what do you think about my YouTube channel name? I already know. I already know. I already now you know a. I think he's saying I already know that you know a little Spanish. So roast my name, please.
So I'm gonna expose my lack of knowledge here. I don't know what pulgadas means. Does someone want to define that for me? Because I know a centimetros, centimeters, right? And then Yelinton, is that your name? I'm just pulling apart this, making sure I'm understanding this. If you wouldn't mind putting in the chat, because I know centimetros y pulgadas, inches. Okay. Oh, see, I should have known that. That's ridiculous. So centimeters and inches, and then Yelinton, is that your name? You want to put that in the chat?
Yep.
And yes, okay. So your name is Yelinton. I think it's great. It would depend on what I'm assuming you have a woodworking channel. Now I got to look it up.
Yes, it is a woodworking channel.
Okay, so it is woodworking. Centimeters and inches, and then your name. I actually don't have any major issues with that. I think it works. It's kind of a creative centimeters and inches, and then you've got your name in the name of your channel. No, I'll be honest, no big red flags for me. The thing I might consider changing is if that's your image for if the image for your channel is that centimetros and pulgados, that little circle thing. I might play around with a few different images for that. Because the and sign is really big and the centimetros is kind of hard to read. You might consider changing that around, or if it's or showing your face. I might play around with that a little bit more. If you're not showing your face on your channel, then you can still play around with the logo. But yeah.
And I apologize about not being able to pronounce your name. I have this Southern accent, and it does not cooperate with me, and I'd rather not say your name than offend you by saying it incorrectly. So I apologize about that. Nate Zone, I'm sorry. Any suggestions for motivation to make videos? I've been struggling to find new ideas, and I feel I am not getting the channel traction I deserve.
Okay. 2 ways. This is very memorable to me once. There's a roundabout way of answering this. This is a great question, Nate Zone. So one time I saw a thread, I think it was on Reddit, where somebody was asking people who work out every day, how do you get the motivation to work out? And almost every comment, there was thousands of comments, almost every comment and upvote was, it's not about motivation, it's about dedication. What were they saying? Discipline. It's about discipline. And the same is often true on YouTube. Okay, so that's the one thing. Just recognize sometimes it's a grind, and you just got to have the discipline to publish regularly. Sometimes you are not going to enjoy it, and that's okay. And to hope or to expect that you will always just be on cloud 9 loving your YouTube channel is just not realistic. It's also unhealthy. It will actually lead to bad mental health in a lot of cases for creators, especially if you're just always, if you're just riding on the results from your channel, that'll be a big problem. Now, however, having said that, back to the motivation. If you're having trouble with the motivation, Nate Zone, oh man, here's what I would suggest. Take a break. Take a few weeks off of publishing. If the grind is getting to you, take a few weeks off of publishing. It's okay. Your channel will be okay. I don't care what size your channel is. If you need a break, take a break. Take a few weeks off of publishing, and then go back to your roots of why you started doing it in the first place, or why you are doing it right now, and just play around. Play around with some new ideas, ways around writer's block. Take a walk. Try different formats for videos. Give yourself a project. If you're the type of person that gets really ground down by just feeling like you're on a hamster wheel, like me, it's really helpful to me to have projects. I think that was really helpful to me back in November when I released the new YouTube system in Project 24, because I was able to have something that I set my mind on and produce it and see it through and then be done with it. And it kind of helped me to keep going. And so more recently, I've been doing that on an ongoing basis where I'm updating lessons or that type of stuff. I set a project in my mind and then I move from there. So I guess so the first thing is discipline. It's going to take discipline. Throw away any thoughts you have about it's going to be like perfect all the time. It's just not. And you know that, and we all know that, but just sometimes our subconscious likes to hold on to that idea. Just throw it out. It's not going to serve you. And then just take a break. Take a break and just try new angles. You'll find it. You'll get it back. You're muted, or I can't hear you.
Whoa.
There you are.
Okay. All right. Good advice. Good advice. So I see in the chat, people are trying to ask for channel roast.
Mhm.
We don't have time this evening. At some point in the future, maybe Nate will come back and join us, and we can do something like that.
Yeah.
But if I keep him too long, he might not come back. So let's look at AJ's green topic. Says, Nate, how do you become some good at making videos and reviewing other channels' content? You have come a long way coming from theater. Yep.
That's a very good question, AJ. So if you don't mind, I'm going to answer this in the framework of any channel maker, and talking about myself. But I would also say, so here's how I would say it. At some point, anyone who sets out to share something is going to run into the feeling of, well, who am I to share this? Who am I to teach this, right? If you don't have tons of years of experience already, it's easy to feel like, well, how can I make a channel about woodworking? We'll say that if I'm just not nearly as good as everybody else that's woodworking, right? And so when I got into this, I realized the irony or the lack thereof, I don't know what the right word for that is, of creating a YouTube channel, teaching people how to create YouTube channels. I don't know if you've ever thought of that. But the issue of saying, I'm going to make a channel, helping people make channels, and to go on and say and start trying to spew off advice when I didn't necessarily have that experience. Now, I did have the advantage of having run other successful channels before that, but still on the channel itself, I had to find a way around that. And so the principle here, I'm going to tie it into whatever channel you're building, you watching this. The principle for me was I realized I needed to work around that. I needed to find ways to show that I had put in the legwork, even though my channel wasn't necessarily an emblem. I didn't have a silver play button back then. I didn't have those things that often are looked to as authority. So I went into it and I said, well, I'm going to outdata everybody else. I'm going to say, I'm going to look at more channels. I'm going to do more data. I'm going to review more stuff than anybody else. Because what does that do? That allows me to get on a video and say, look, I may not be the total expert in the world, but I just looked at 100 freaking channels. I just looked at 100 channels and I pulled out this data and this is what I found. And so it created an expertise in me that was established in the video itself. I didn't need any preemptive stuff because I could show with real data that I had done a lot of research before creating that video. So that, I guess, answering your question, that is one of the workarounds. If you ever come across that, the imposter syndrome of like, I'm not good enough. Well, on YouTube, you can show that you put in more legwork than other people. You can do that, and that qualifies you. That's enough. That's enough to make a good video for people. And they'll trust you, even if, like I saw one of the comments, even if you're just 1 week ahead of them, that's enough. That's enough. So that was a really good point. Great question to bring up.
Yeah, at a recent conference, the Workbench Con, one of the speakers talked about that authority, that, don't believe the lie that you do not have some type of authority. If you have a message to share and you can identify your audience, you have authority on YouTube. It is there for you to share, and everyone else can be the judge after they review your content about if they want to continue to follow you because of that authority or not, and that's okay.
But be honest with where you are right now. Be transparent, especially on YouTube. That's a great point you're bringing up, RT, because acknowledge where you are right now. Be honest with it. Don't try to pretend that you're something that you're not. I know it's an oft-repeated thing. It's like, well, just pretend you're that way, then you'll become that way. And that's true to a certain point, except that people can smell fake a mile away. And it's why we see a lot of influencers who start pretending that they have a lot of money and they just keep going. And then somewhere down the road, it comes out that they're in massive debt and their channel dies and they lose a bunch of followers because they were putting up a facade. And so just be honest with where you are. Like if you say, hey, this is the first time doing this project, this woodworking project, but I found out this, and this, and it's your first time doing it, but the audience may have never done it, right? So you're still being honest and authentic with it. It's a good conversation. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying, I had the same question that you did. This is what I found, and share it. So you're just one step ahead of them, but it's an important step. And if part of your passion is sharing that, have at it. You become the authority figure, the influencer.
Yep.
Let's see. Shards of Gaming says, have you ever used or heard of Lightworks Video Editor? It is free. I use it because I can't use DaVinci due to its crashing my PC.
No, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of the one I use. Capwing.com is something similar where my computer won't handle DaVinci. It'll crash it. So it's an online way to edit. It's given me issues at time and not been responsive. So I don't recommend it to people, but there are solutions like that out there. So I appreciate you sharing that about Lightworks.
Yeah.
Might need to check that out. Okay. We have over 6 months of content to share. We are debating, should we continue to release our adventures once a week or release more often so we are not so far out in the time continuum?
Is your content, so questions for me are, coming to mind for me, is it time sensitive? Meaning, so Edelkampers, something about traveling, I'm guessing. So if you have like seasonal stuff, like winter stuff, and if you're publishing that in the middle of summer, I could see that being an issue. Then that could be another thing. I would consider looking further into that. The other question for me is with how often you're publishing, can you produce content more? Like if you can produce enough to do 2 videos a week and you like it, you like that pace, then yeah, publish more often. Especially if it's vlog style or entertainment style of content that's more easily consumable. That's not like meaty, information heavy tutorial or something like that. If you're doing that type of stuff, then yeah, I would publish more often.
Awesome. So, the having the ones in the pool for you to pull out and release next is great. I kind of, if you have 6 months worth, you could have survived the first part of a pandemic without traveling. But if you release all that in 2 months, are you going to be able to replenish it?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Are you going to be able
to?
to replenish it? If you are, then yeah, I would publish more often. If you're not, just stick with that schedule.
All right. Shards of Gaming says, are DIY play buttons worth making?
Like you order a play button that's not officially from YouTube? Is that what we're
Yeah.
asking?
So I know at least in the
Is that,
woodworking
or are we
areas.
talking about like a plushie, like a?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're
That
referring
would be my
to.
question, because plushie, yeah, go for it. But as far as like fabricating your own play button, no, don't do that.
So
Because again, it's back to that like seeming versus actually being. You don't want to just put up a facade. Say, oh, all these play buttons, but because what would happen the instant that everybody found out that they were fake? They're out of there. They're gone. So I don't know. I wouldn't tread on that, because there's a lot of value and authenticity on YouTube. And so, yeah, if that's the question, if it's about making your own play buttons, don't. Like actual, like silver, gold type of play buttons. If it's plushies or pillows or whatever, yeah, go for it. No issues. That's fine.
yeah, in the woodworking niche, it's pretty common for a woodworker to make his own play button out of wood
Oh,
for
yeah.
1,000 subscribers or 10,000 subscribers.
In that case, I'm
so,
fine with that.
yeah.
I think that's great, because that actually, it's a showcase of expertise and it's a way of thanking your audience. I think that's awesome. But as far as like trying to make an exact, I was referring to like making an exact replica, making it seem like you got it from YouTube. Don't do that.
Yeah,
But yeah, actually making your own, that's great. I would love a wooden play button. That'd be awesome.
Get your 3D printer out and print one.
Right.
Okay. Dr. Omar, I'm going to say Denoun.
Mm-hmm.
I am a neurologist and I specialize in epilepsy. How do I make intriguing titles and thumbnails for people who are not medical professionals to understand?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would. So I actually recognize, hey, Dr. Omar, I know you've been on my channel. You've commented and submitted videos a few times. So hello. So if you're around people that don't know much about it, I would actually, this is something odd, but I think it would be a good idea here. I would arrange to have conversations with some of them and ask them questions and pay attention to what words they use when they don't know very much about the topic. So if they don't know a certain symptom is a symptom of epilepsy, for example, they might describe it a certain way. I can't think of words off the top. I'm obviously not a doctor in this. I'm not a neurologist, but let's say they describe it as shaking or chills. I'm just making something up here. I would pay close attention to those words, because you're going to want to use those words in your titles and thumbnails, not the words that you know as the expert, because it's not about you. It's about the audience. How do they think? What are the words they're using? What are they thinking when they are coming up with titles and thumbnails? When they're deciding what videos to watch, what are the words they're using? So I would maybe arrange some conversations with people that are not in that world, and you'll need to prompt them, with a few questions just to hear how they would describe it or the types of questions they would have. But that would be the approach I would take it. That's a great question.
Awesome. Okay, folks, I have 3 more questions, and we're gonna call it a night and give Nate a break. He's been talking a lot. I do appreciate his
It's your
time, but
longest live stream ever.
ever. We're less than 4 months old as a channel, but
You're doing great.
We're progressing and having fun, and it's due to guests like you, Nate. I appreciate it more than you
Well,
know.
see, and here's what's going well about woodworking YouTubers. You have a definite audience, and the expectation is a live stream every week. Because I often talk about, how like if you try to do too much, live streams, they don't have necessarily the same reach, etc. But if the audience is expecting longer form content and interviews, and they want to spend time with you, that's a good thing. And so
Yeah.
the channel, as far as I see, is being built on that. It's being built around community and the right audience and finding great people to interview, that type of thing. And you're doing great with it, RT. I think, yeah, this is great. You're doing great.
Thank
You're
you.
doing great with the channel.
We're having fun every Monday night. I have tried this week. I tried releasing one short to see if it got any traction, and I may try that again. And we've got a few independent videos, mainly clips from the live streams, and then I do some B-roll on top of what's being said. I've done that some, and I've posted some other woodworking creators had me post a trailer for their channel on my channel. So
well, that's cool.
And that's what this channel is all about. It's about supporting others, especially in the woodworking and maker niche with their YouTube concerns. And we get into a little woodworking and maker stuff, but we're having fun, and I appreciate you being here.
I'm enjoying being here.
So Fowler's Farmhouse and More, which is a great channel. Is it possible to grow your channel but have more than one niche? For instance, I am majority woodworking, but I also do some automotive content.
That's a good question. Most of the time, I'd say no. This is the rule. Ask yourself this. Is anybody watching this? If you're considering a similar question, ask yourself this. Think of your audience in terms of, I like to think of everybody possible on YouTube as a big pie chart, right? And your audience is a slice of the pie, right? That have interests, similar interests that you're going for. If your audience is this slice of the pie and you're thinking of another niche, how much overlap are there between those two audiences? This slice of the pie, the other niche, how much overlap is there? If there's not a considerable amount of overlap, I would say at least 80% overlap, don't do it on the same channel. It's just not going to work. It's you're splitting audiences. The algorithm's going to be like, well, this one's for this audience, but this one's for this. Like, we don't know. It's not going to be. It's going to be messy. So in that case, if you still do enjoy doing the automotive content, just start another channel for that. That's a good. It's good. Unless the exception here is if you find a creative way to combine the two. Like you do woodworking for automotive stuff. I'm just trying to come up with ways you would combine that. Or if you make woodworking cars, or, you see what I'm doing there, where you're kind of merging two niches, then that you've almost created a new niche, but it would work. So that's a good point. A good question, but in most cases, I would look at that pie chart and say, is there a reasonable overlap? And if there's not, don't do it. Do a separate channel. Somebody was saying a big wooden figure with, we were talking about play buttons. Somebody said a play button. Oh, Kevin Conder said, how about a person-sized wooden blocks that spell out howdy, howdy? Yeah. Heck yeah. I mean, if somebody made me an awesome wooden thing that said howdy, howdy, I would totally put it right. Oh, you can't see it, but I would totally put it on my shelf back here. I definitely would. Oh, back here, I'd put a nice howdy, howdy. I'd probably replace that hat because it doesn't even fit me. And I'd put it on that shelf. Anyway.
All right, we'll get on that, Nate.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll get you something. Okay, so thank you, Fowlers.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley Hope says, at what point do you think someone should reevaluate their channel if they're not seeing growth? I'm still new, but this is something I worry about.
Okay. There's all sorts of variations, but I would give it the rule of at least 100 full effort videos, meaning you tried your best with each video to make a good video. 100 full effort videos spanned over a space of a year. I would look at that. And at that point, only then would I start to feel like I had enough of a take on, like, is YouTube a fit for me? Is this content the fit that I want? Is this the type of content I want to make? It's a great question, Ashley.
Yeah, and Channel Makers has some content on that subject. So you go check out that video. It's not very long, and it's pretty direct about what you should do with your first 10 videos and your next 10, and how to really build up your skill set while you're putting in the reps. But if you've never done any kind of marketing or video creation, those first 10 videos, you're going to look back at those one day in embarrassment.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the way it should be. So that means you've progressed. But thank you for that, Ashley, very much.
Clarifying, sorry, I saw the comment from 4321. Did he say 100 over a year? Going to probably take me 3 years to get to 100. It's 100 videos or a year. I would look at it that way. Sorry, just to clarify that. Yeah. Anyway.
Thanks, Chris, over 4321. Shards of Gaming. For smaller channels, would you recommend starting a side or second channel if the content feels like it is cramping one channel?
No. Well, cramping, yes, but smaller channels, no. Most of the time, I'd recommend you get good at one channel first, and then it's time to start making another channel. Because split focus it takes more time. It can split the focus between a couple of different channels. It's going to be hard. It's going to kind of feel like, throwing away your baby or something. But if you are doing a certain type of content and there's another type of content you really want to make, but you realize it doesn't work on your primary channel, sometimes it's time to just say, you know what, I'm going to come back to that later. When the first channel has grown bigger, then I can start a second channel if it makes sense to start a second channel. Yeah, that'd be my take on it. If the other type of content really is much more interesting to you, then maybe you just do that other type of content and not the first type of content. Just careful you avoid the shiny object syndrome where you're jumping from types to types, because then you'll have a hard time growing a channel if you do that.
All right. K.I. Hested says, what do you think of this paradox? If I follow the best practices on how to make a successful YouTube channel, I will not succeed because I will just do what others have already done. So is that really a paradox?
That's good. That's only an issue if you make the exact same content as them. And I mean literally the exact same content as them, which is impossible. Therefore, it's not an issue. See the logical loop I took there? Because the thing is, you're one of the, I've used this before. I was invited to, there was an evening where there was a bunch of youth. They were looking into building YouTube channels. So they invited me to come speak to them. And I used this example. I said, in the past, people, if there was some crazy person in your hometown that made sculptures out of toasters, Crazy Joe made sculptures out of toasters. Previously, before the internet, it would have just been, this is the crazy guy that, maybe people passing through might, go to his house to see his crazy toaster sculptures. It's a ridiculous example, but it'll make sense here. With YouTube, you have access to the entirety of everybody, like everybody that's on the internet, right? Everybody that's on YouTube. And so Joe with his crazy toaster sculptures could now access not just the people that were local in his town, but also anybody else that would potentially be interested in these crazy sculptures. And so, and it works because it's unique to him. And so we follow best practices on how to make a successful channel. We follow in their footsteps, just like if you were a composer, you learn the rules of creating music so you can break them, so you can make them your own. You can create original content. So this is the same thing here. You learn the best practices, you learn the skill sets, and you do all of these things, but then you make them your own. You break the rules, you make your own original content, and then you'll succeed because it's you at that point. So I actually don't see it as a paradox. It's not even a concern in most cases, because you literally can't make the exact same content as other people. And if you try to exactly copy them and don't create anything original, then yeah, you might not succeed. And people will be like, wait, your content's exactly the same. So the simple solution is create original content based on the skill sets and the other things you're learning. That's a really good point to bring up there. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the one unique thing about your videos is always going to be you. And so, you know, you can almost do it word for what another video's done. But especially if you're on camera, it's going to be different because your facial expressions, your mannerisms. So I like that. All right. Last question of the evening. R.A. Charlie Guy gets the honors. I would like to make content on my two greatest passions, woodworking and Harley Davidson, motorcycling.
Uh-huh.
Should I make two separate channels? My name is blended, the rustic biker woodworking.
Uh-huh. Oh, good. That's good. That's a good question to end off with also. Lead with one. And what I mean there is, if the algorithm were to say this channel is blah, what it would say first, lead with one of them first. I see this evidence over and over again. If we try to go too split, and this is kind of venturing into the earlier question about two different niches, if we try to go too split, it's really hard to classify by the algorithm standpoint and the audience. Because if interests don't align, if they're not, overlapping, then we're going to have an issue, right? But I would lead with one. So, for example, it could be a woodworking channel that also you're also a biker, and you also have your bike in the background of your videos, and you also, periodically you show yourself, maybe B-roll of you riding your bike to the hardware store to pick up some lumber or something like that, where it's the secondary. So it's a lot of you in it, and you can talk about your bike, etc. But the primary is woodworking. And it would be the same for vice versa. If you led with the Harley, with the Harley Davidson, and then throughout the video, you showed yourself making some woodworking, or you say, hey, I just worked on this project, something like that. It's just, we need to have a leading factor in most cases. Now, here's the exception. You ready for this? There's always exceptions, right? Is if you start to build a channel and you get a large enough audience and you build it around you as the personality. You build it around you as a personality, then you can almost do whatever the heck you want, and people will watch because they like you as the personality. You say, hey, today we're doing the woodworking project. Come join me. And they say, that's great. Hey, today we're going for a ride. Come join me. And they say, that's great, because they like you. Is that making sense? They're there for you first over the information or the answers they're going to get or any of those other things. So I'm hoping that's answering your question. But that second model, the exception I'm talking about, usually only works when you have a large enough audience, and it needs to be built up over time to where you have kind of a critical mass of people that will just watch whatever video you publish, no matter what it's about. So yeah, good question.
So, R.A. Charlie Guy, I want you to look me in the eye. Could you have picked two more expensive hobbies? I mean, what is up? You couldn't pick like stamp collecting or something. So you must have money, man.
I was going to say that the stamp collectors in the audience are like, excuse me, I paid a lot for that collection.
I know, whatever the hobby is. Yeah. So he knows I'm kidding. So
yeah,
I appreciate everyone. If you made it to this part of the live stream or the replay, please go, if you're in the chat, and once the video is over, please come back in and leave a comment, some of the favorite things you've learned from channel makers. And also, our experiment a couple of weeks ago failed where I said you could put the link in there because YouTube removed them all. So if you could put a reason why someone should go watch your channel, that'd be great. I'd love to review them. So please do that. And it's an open invitation to anybody watching this video. Nate, thank you so much for being here. Any last thoughts, or where can they find you in the future?
Thank you, RT. This was very enjoyable. I appreciated it. And I meant this at the beginning when I said this was one of the best arranged guest appearances I've ever had. I've been on quite a few, and this has been like probably the best. So I really, really appreciate that. It's been a great conversation. Everybody watching, all the comments, all the questions have been great. Yeah, channel makers, the YouTube channel, go check it out if you haven't already. Got a lot of great videos over there. Yeah, that's I'd say.
All right. Thank you, Nate. I appreciate that compliment.
Thank you, RT.
And I hope you will consider coming back again at some point in the future. I do
Definitely.
appreciate you and all you do on your channel and for the YouTube community. And I wish you the best of luck.
Same
for
to
now, for now, folks, I hear my wife calling. I got to go.
You know, I still do some from time to time now.
Okay. And then what led you from that into video creation on YouTube?
Boredom, mostly. I was living in Charleston. This was back in, we're talking 2013, March 19th, 2013 was when I posted my very first video. And I had talked to a lot of people in the area trying to find a woodworkers group, people that were building stuff. Didn't even have to be woodworking, there just wasn't much of it. So a friend of mine suggested making videos on YouTube to reach out to other, meet other woodworkers, reach out to other people who were building things. And so I started checking it out, and that was really cool. I saw, back then it was Steve Ramsey, Mark Spagnolo, Laney Shaughnessy, and of course Matt's Basement Workshop. And they were kind of, those are really the four guys. I call them the four fathers. They're the four guys that really started the woodworking DIY thing on YouTube. Those were the guys that started it all. And then there was Matthias Wandel and John Heinz came along. And about the same time, Jimmy DiResta had started his thing, Bob Claggett, and I started about the same time, roughly within a year span there. We all started right around the same time. And it was just fun and exciting. I put a video up. It was the worst video that's ever been posted to YouTube. If you're hard on your videos, go check out my very first video ever. You won't feel so bad, I promise. But people commented, and I was interacting with them. And I took like another 2 months and I put up another video, and it happened again. People were, commenting and talking, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And at those points, I was watching a lot of YouTube. It was ridiculous. I had done a lot of fishing because I had a lot of free time. So I've been fishing and watching YouTube videos. And I kind of saw that there was this gap in the market of things that, just these in the industrial side of making or furniture or other things, you tend to see a lot of things that you don't see in the DIY side. And there's a lot of adaptations that I saw that were possible. So I took a lot of my knowledge from that side of the world and kind of adapted it to the DIY and just started doing a lot of crazy and wild things that people hadn't seen before on equipment that wasn't designed for it, but it works. And, I got a lot of people saying that's not safe, and they don't really understand. They didn't have a good grasp on the physics of what I was doing.
Doing the research is not necessarily going to be the fun part, right? And we had Mr. King on here a couple of weeks ago. He was talking about the research he did before he released a single YouTube short. Well, the research he did led him to putting together a video less than a minute, but there was many, many hours of research before that, but it led to 5 million views. So research can be very important. This is counterintuitive to a lot of the suggestion out there on YouTube where everybody says, just hit record. Just go out in the garage and hit record. And your viewpoint seems to be different than that. What do you say to those people that say, just hit record?
I'm glad you brought it up, RT. There's a lot of, I call them talking points that have manifested themselves for whatever reason in the how to grow space. The just hit record is probably one of the ones that drives me the most insane. I mean, you can go out and just hit record, but again, set your expectations for what you think the output and the end result is going to be. You get out of things what you put into them, and you may get lucky and you might catch a unicorn, but I'm going to bet 9 times out of 10, if you just go out and you hit record, you don't do any research, you don't have a plan, you don't have a rough script, you don't have a target audience, you don't have value that you're looking to provide. Again, I just think you're setting yourself up for unneeded frustration when a little prep and work up front can pay extreme dividends in the end. And you don't get a do-over when you post the video. Once it goes out into the interwebs, it's done. And you can't go back and redo the same topic right away because then you look like a goof.
I'm inspired by this guy. It's a little not fair because he does have a bigger, larger channel, but he has a smaller woodworking channel that's done pretty well this past year as well as in 2020. And his name is Robert Dunn. His channel is called Underdone, and he's hilarious. I think he is one of the best people in front of a camera in our space. His bigger channel is a car channel. I'm not going to kind of focus on that, but Underdone, he has made a handful of videos this past year. Not nearly as many as he made in 2020, but he still racked in quite a few views. Especially, he had some videos over 100,000, some over 500,000. And what I really want to emphasize with Robert Dunn, even if you watch his Aging Wheels channel or Underdone, his woodworking channel, is his confidence, relaxation, and charisma. And it might come naturally to him, but I believe that everyone can work on charisma, and they can look at someone like Robert Dunn and get inspired how to speak to camera really effectively and really connect with your audience on a super authentic and genuine level. He only posted 9 videos, but they're all fantastic.
After all I've done, do you love me now? Do you love me now? After all I've said, running through your head, do you love me now? Do you love me told you everything, I bet you cry and run away. 'Cause with all the lies I keep, made you believe this was me. The truth is I am not at all who I preach myself to be. And I deserve to be alone, and I'm alone here with me. be
Landing gear is down and locked. Main gear touchdown.